it's Joe at Red's Fly Shop here. We're going to talk about large arbor reels today. Maybe you need a new reel, maybe you don't. Heck, I don't know. One thing is for certain, nobody should have as many fly reels as I do, but I like testing out new stuff and sharing my thoughts on it with all of you. The reel we're going to talk about primarily will be this new Lamson Hyperspeed. That's the 5 Plus. And that is a super duper uber large arbor reel. And just for kind of comparison, another large arbor reel from Lamson that I use a lot is their Litespeed. And we'll just give you kind of a visual comparison there. Now the actual specs is the Hyperspeed on the bottom there, the green one, is 4.4 inches in diameter, and the Litespeed is 3.75 inches in diameter. And as far as weights go, I'll mention the specs right now too. 3.6 ounces on the 5 Plus, and then this is 4.9 ounces on the Hyperspeed. So the Hyperspeed is quite a bit heavier. I mix and match my reels on my rods a lot, just depending on what I'm doing and what line happens to be on there and what rod I'm going to use that day. So it's pretty common for me to switch them around. But as I was kind of just figuring out exactly how I want to discuss large arbor reels, one thing I did want to mention was balance. And you know, a light reel is nice to have. It's light in hand. But this rod right here, that's a Winston Air 2 6-weight. I use that for streamers a lot. I use it for windy conditions, or God forbid I fish an indicator rig. I'm going to fish an indicator rig on that, and I might even use this for my smallmouth or even light largemouth bass as well. But primarily it's used on the river for throwing larger flies, especially in windy situations. Now this reel at 4.9 ounces balances very, very nice. And if you want to test balance on your reel and rod setup, just to figure out kind of where you're at, I generally try to hold my index finger right there. And I'm not a stickler for balance, but naturally my preference would be to have everything balanced. And then you just wrap your hand around it, and that's nice and balanced. You're going to have enough weight to balance the rod, not so much that the tip wants to go up, and then you have a heavier reel that's balanced properly, also anchors that cast in, and I believe it stabilizes the rod a little bit as well. So heavy reels aren't the end of the world. For shorter rods, anything under 9 feet, definitely getting a much lighter reel to promote that balance, and then you don't need as much reel weight to stabilize the cast on anything, say 8.5 feet on down. Lighter is definitely better. Now, this is my 10-foot 4-weight Winston Air 2 Reach, and it's got that 3.6 out Litespeed on there, and that thing is way out of balance. That thing just drops. And so I could use a little bit heavier reel on this, and like I said, I mix and match mine quite a bit. And I was actually fishing this reel a lot on my 10-foot 5-weight, and it balanced great on my 10-foot 5-weight. And so for rods that are 9.5 or 10 feet long, getting something that's 4.5 ounces to 5 ounces would be absolutely great for balancing anything 9.5 to 10 feet long that's relatively light graphite rod. Now the story or the mechanical advantage of large arbor reels is they retrieve faster, and they also keep the same ratio or more similar ratio when drag is going out. So if I have a fish that just drains my reel, my drag tension will change as that arbor gets smaller, but since it's on a large arbor, my gear ratio is not going to change much. So if I'm fishing light tippet and I'm having fish that take out a lot of line, I mean, a bonefish is really the only really good example I can think of, because even on 5 and 6X tippet, when I'm fishing out here on the river, those fish don't tend to go on long runs. They tend to jump and run a lot of different directions and things. So that may or may not be relevant for the trout fisherman, but if you're thinking about 7 or 8 weight for bonefish and you're going to be fishing 8 or 10 pound test, pretty light, definitely something with a little bit bigger arbor is important so long as you have enough backing. Now the Hyperspeed here, let's give you one more look at it, because it's kind of what this video is about, is reviewing whether this reel is something you need in your kit or not. There's a look at it right there. Same conical drag system that Lamson's been building for years. I mean, just rarely ever see failure on that. And here's what it sounds like. So that's what it sounds like when it goes out. That's what it sounds like when it comes in. Pretty good positive noise. I like my reels to make noise so I can hear what's going on and what they're doing. Now my Litespeed has had a lot of miles on it and it's quieter. So I don't know if that I don't know if that's going to change over time, but the Litespeed still is loud enough that I can kind of hear whether line's going in or out and things like that, which is nice. Now retrieve rate is the big one. So retrieve rate for a large arbor reel is where there is a big advantage, which I do really like. So I have a bunch of line out like so. Let me see if I can hook my fly on the back of the chair here. Don't tell the chef because I want a little bit of tension. It's not going to work. That's okay, but let's just say I hook a fish and I've got some tension on the end, and the fish, it's not earning the line. It's not going to pull all this line out, but I'm engaged in a pretty good fight, and I'd prefer to try to get all my working line or my slack line up. And with a large arbor reel, it retrieves quite fast so that I can suck all that line back up, and now I've taken the fight right to the reel. And the thing about drag systems, fingers will fail, especially in netting situations when you're trying to finish a difficult fish. Drag systems will not. Drag systems, even a bad drag system is still better than your fingers. So it's nice to get fish on the reel when you can. The other thing that's really handy about large arbor reels or something with a really good gear ratio there is when I'm wade fishing, I have a tendency to get a little lazy sometimes, and I might have, say, 6 or 8, 10 feet of line out, and I'm fishing, and then I've got to walk up to my next pocket, and rather than drag all this line through the grass and the brush or try to handle it, if I have a large arbor reel, I can reel it in, comes in pretty quick. Now I'm nice and tidy. I can get back out and strip the line back off. So maybe that's relevant as an advantage to you. Maybe not. Who cares? Maybe you're not worried about that. But as far as trout fishing goes, large arbor reels, the bigger the arbor, the better gear ratio you're going to have. And they advertise that this 5 Plus will take in 11.5 inches of line per revolution. So if my hand is up here at the very top and I reel one time, supposedly that takes in 11.5 inches of line. I'm actually going to measure that. I've got a measuring tape here, and I'm going to mark the line, and I'm actually going to see how much line comes in, and I'm going to compare the Hyperspeed to the Litespeed. So we'll do that next. Okay, so I've put a black dot on my line right there, and I'm just going to make one revolution right there. And man, I got actually closer to 13 inches on one revolution. Let's do that again. And that black dot is right there at the edge of the table. I'm going to reel one revolution. Yeah, I'm actually getting over 13. I'm getting like 13.5 inches in one revolution. Now, granted, that is with a full arbor here. So if my line was out a ways, that is going to shrink just a little bit. So maybe at working distance, it is their 11.5 inches they advertise. Let's see what the smaller, it's still a large arbor, but we'll see what the Litespeed does as far as retrieve goes. So same deal, I marked my line with a Sharpie right at the edge of the table, and I'm going to run one retrieve. We'll see where we're at. That was one revolution, and I'm at 10.25 inches. Okay, so I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure that this is scientifically accurate. Black dot is on the edge of the table, and my reel handle is in the exact same spot, so I'm doing a relatively good job right there. And actually came up with like 9 7/8 that time. I know this isn't exact, but it's pretty close. Heck, let's just do it one more time, and make sure that line is tight. And I'm going to reel it in. And I'm at 10.25 again, so I think there's going to be just some very slight variations based on where that line, if it goes on the top of the stack here, it'll be a bigger retrieve than if it was on the bottom of the stack, like I think the second attempt was. So yeah, you're getting 3 additional inches of retrieve per revolution. All right, so there's the data. So 3 additional inches, which is what, 30% greater retrieve on the Hyperspeed versus the Litespeed, and these are essentially built for the same line weight, even though this one is 4.4 inches diameter. The whiskey colored one on the bottom here is 3.75 inches in diameter, and that additional diameter gives you a significant amount more retrieve. So less reeling, more taken in line. Maybe this reel is good for you. Again, regarding what rods you would put this on, like minimum 9 feet. It would work fine on a 9'5" weight, but works exceptionally well on a 9'6" weight. Anything in that 9.5 to 10 foot range, definitely I would recommend you want to take advantage of that Hyperspeed from Lamson. This reel paired with, and this is what I've been fishing. Like I said, I've been swapping reels around a little bit. But that Hyperspeed on like this Winston 10-foot Air 2 Reach would be just a great balance and an absolutely great setup for somebody throwing double fly rigs, hopper dropper rigs, anything where we're trying to high stick over technical currents and get good drifts. So as always, shop at Reds. There's links to all these products in the video description there. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'll try to do this about once or twice a week and keep good videos coming at you with good, real, genuine content.